Drummers Against Implied Timekeeping, Richard D'Albus. 5 musicians every drummer should know. Anyone who has visited my channel knows that I like lists about great drummers in different styles. I have lots of videos, 5 of the greatest punk drummers, 5 of the greatest avant-garde drummers. Just please go back and look at my catalog. I have 10 songs every drummer should know, and just lots of these type of lists because I think they're fun and important from a historical point of view. So go back and look. But this is 5 musicians or songwriters that I think every drummer that comes to visit on my channel and sees the things that I'm teaching should know about. Some of them you may know, and some of them you probably don't. But these are 5 just important writers and composers that you have to know them if you're within any scope of trying to learn drums from a historical standpoint. Now, as a disclaimer, this is of course my opinion, so bear with me, all right? The first is famous in jazz circles, and that would of course be Miles Davis. If you're a drummer, and even if you're not a drummer, Miles Davis is very important because he always was innovating and changing and trying different styles, and this is important for you to know. All his drummers were on the cutting edge, like Tony Williams or Jack DeJohnette and various other people. But I want you to know him. Know Sketches of Spain or Kind of Blue and just countless of other different records he made. If you're a drummer, know Miles Davis, regardless of whatever you're doing, okay? Everything you can get your hands on Miles Davis, you need to know him as a drummer. There's no getting around it, period, all right? He's a legend, and rightly so, because of just the things he brought to the table, not just in jazz, but in fusion and various other things. He's really the godfather of a lot of innovations. The second that came to mind is a songwriter named Harry Nilsson. He was a singer as well, but as a songwriter, he was as good as it gets in the 70s. He came on the scene kind of unexpectedly in Los Angeles, California. He wrote for lots of people, and if you're a drummer, especially you're a younger drummer under 30, know Harry Nilsson. His impact and influence on songwriters is legendary, including the Beatles. John Lennon loved him. Most people know that, and for good reason, because he just had a very interesting mind and understood how to construct songs. And I want to teach drummers to know how to play the things that I teach, but I want you to be able to identify other songwriters when you're in your travels and whatever you're doing. Harry Nilsson is a good teacher of that. Listen to what he does. Some songs are quirky and have unusual narratives to them, and some of them are just beautifully laid out. So Harry Nilsson, of course, he's made lots of records. He died very young, but his impact is important for every younger drummer. Know him, all right? Anything you can see on YouTube by Harry Nilsson, find out about that, all right? The next came to mind was a guitarist, acoustic guitarist, who was, he died very early as well, and that was Nick Drake. Nick Drake from England came on the scene in the late 60s, and he was not heralded as a groundbreaking artist until years later. And I agree with anyone who gives him a lot of credit as a true visionary as a songwriter. He played acoustic guitar. He was rarely performed as an artist. He just never, he was just a little bit shy to play in front of people. But his impact, he only made, I think, 3 or 4 records, and every one of them is essential for every drummer to know. You must know Nick Drake, all right? Find out, see some documentaries on him. I've seen a couple things on him. They're absolutely great and important for any drummer. You would think because he's playing acoustic guitar, how does that relate to drumming? it relates because I want drummers to understand songwriters. Because your value as a drummer is to how songs come into play. They don't magically appear. And to know who's a great songwriter. So he's another one of them, all right? Nick Drake, always. The other is similar to Nick Drake for their era. And I guess I'm a little bit stuck in the 70s, but I would say Leon Russell. He died a few years back, but Leon Russell was also the original pianist with the Wrecking Crew and was on a whole host of hits in the 60s for lots of artists. But what really stands out about him as a songwriter in his own right amongst other songwriters. There are lots of videos on YouTube to take a look at what he has done. His albums were extraordinary from a songwriter's point of view. And, you know, he did Mad Dogs and Englishmen with Joe Cocker, a very famous tour in 1970 as the leader. He's just extraordinary. And later in his life, as he was getting on in his years, a couple of years ago, Elton John did a final record with him. Elton John really respected Leon Russell. That should give you a lot to go on right there. So know him, and as a drummer, understand him. All right? He's just too important in the American songbook not to know. All right? And the final, for me, is Igor Stravinsky. He's the classical composer, or postmodern composer, from the early 1900s. He was basically, he did a lot of ballet, you know, and he did lots of choral work, and he really branched out and was, I don't want to get too complicated, but he was involved with early atonal music. But he just blossomed, and he inspired a lot of people, myself one of them. He's one of my favorite composers, if not my favorite period composer of the 20th century. If you're a drummer, please listen to his concerto for orchestra, or Petrushka, Rite of Spring. These are things that every drummer that comes within my orbit needs to know and respect Igor Stravinsky. He died, I think, 1971, so he was the early part of the 1900s all the way up to the later part of the 60s, and his impact is important, all right? So know these 5 people. They're just so powerful for drummers to know and to appreciate. When I think about it, I look back in retrospect at the time and didn't think much of maybe Leon Russell. That was a mistake. Harry Nilsson, that was a mistake, no question. And Nick Drake, my God, what a mistake not to know that man. Now, if you have any questions on any of these artists, feel free to ask me. I'll be glad to answer. And welcome everyone who's visiting over here. I do the videos as I see fit. I like teaching in very unique and specific ways in the open-handed position. And I'd like you to kind of delve into my catalog to see what it's all about. And of course, if you haven't, please subscribe. Your subscription is the support. And I want to thank everyone who comes here to do that. I do these out of love for so many things that I look back historically as a drummer. But I don't just want to look at drummers. Although I love drummers and I love talking about drummers with all of you, I think drummers need to know songwriters, and there's hundreds of other songwriters. But for me, these 5 should be known by every younger player. Know them, all right? And let me know what you think. I'll leave my PayPal account address. Anything you can do to support me, thank you. And whenever I'm in the mood to come up with some other rhythm or beat, I'll be glad to post that. So thanks for your support, all right? Let me know what you think of the 5 I've told you. I happen to think these guys are important, all right? Take care. My best to all of you.